welcome to Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real metaphysical and occult knowledge so that you can manifest real and tangible results in your life. This week, we're going to be continuing our Mage Minded series. Yes, a few of you have been emailing me asking when we're going to do it. We are still doing it. We are going to have them coming. We're just trying to weave a few more things in there. Don't worry. We got a whole lot more on this series we want to do. But this week we are going to be talking about endurance, why it's actually very, very important to a mage's path if self-mastery and self-empowerment is something they are seeking. We're going to be talking about what it is, how it affects us, those kinds of things. All right. Now, we are also doing this topic live at our online community. If you are part of our community, you can jump in here live, watch us. Afterwards, when we cut the recording, we go over, we do a live Q&A where we talk about the topic, we take questions, answers, and oftentimes, if we have time, we even go off topic and answer questions people just may have in the community because it's their chance to ask me directly questions. So if you're interested in joining us live, consider joining the Working Dragon Mystic community. You can find it at workingdragonmystic.com or the links will be below. All right, now with that said, let's go ahead and get into this. I had to redo my camera because last week when I went into editing, for whatever reason, I was like zoomed like freaking up on my dome, looked like a fucking watermelon with a nose. But that's okay. We're going to go ahead and get going in here. So let's do this. So endurance. Now, most people, when we think of endurance, we think long distance running. We think, physical endurance, right? And endurance is that. But have you ever actually stopped to think and ask yourself, what does endurance actually mean in life as a whole, right? And if you look in the dictionary, you can generally find two main definitions to the word endurance. The ability to bear prolonged hardship, exertion, or pain. That would be one. The second is the survival or persistence of something over time. Pretty straightforward. I think most people would probably agree with that, right? Now, but as you do see from that definition, it does have two meanings. And both really come into play for the mage. I really, truly believe this. I've seen it a lot in my life, for sure. Because just like everyone, a mage is going to be required in life to endure hardships, right? We're going to have a lot of periods in our life where everything spins out of control and goes cray-cray. We're going to face hardships. You're going to face job loss. You're going to face financial difficulties. You're going to face flat tires, car breakdowns. Maybe the engine fell out of your car. Maybe your drunk cousin completely tore your transmission up. Now you need transmission work and he ain't got no money to pay it because he's a bum. So now you're stuck with it. There's hardships that find us, whether it be through just happenstance, friends, family. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It happens. It will find us, right? Sickness, it can find us, right? So it's always going to be there. It's going to be part of us, but the mage must face these hardships and always continue to walk forward on his or her path to self-mastery and empowerment. We can't just suddenly pump the brakes and stop just because we had a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, or a bad year. In fact, I have a very, very close dear friend who it would be fair to say that due to uncontrolled circumstances, she has had a very extremely bad or rough 5 years, right? And she has not stopped moving forward the entire time that crisis or chaos has been taking place around her. Many of you in the community probably can guess who I'm talking about. So she has embraced that concept very much so. And if you are walking that path of self-mastery and empowerment, that is really what we have to do. And if you add to this that as a practitioner, as someone who is actually trying to walk that path, whether the people around us know it or not, when we're on that path, we tend to draw people to us. They want to ask us questions. They want to seek advice. It's like they know they can try and pull from that well of wisdom to some extent. It really is. So in a lot of ways, you're shouldering a lot of other people's stuff too, unless you become a hermit, which I know a lot of mages who become hermits because of that exact reason. They don't want to deal with it. And it can be hard to balance out and set boundaries and stuff like that. So, you got your problems, you got other people's problems. And that's fair, right? Now, I don't think I've ever said anywhere on this channel that the path of self-mastery was easy. In fact, quite the opposite. I usually tell people, if you're looking for an easy life, don't study magic, in all honesty. But the path of self-mastery and empowerment does take courage and endurance, right? It does. Now, the endurance will play a lot of different roles in our path. First off, it's extremely tempting for all of us, even those of us who've been at this for a long time, to just give up and throw in the towel, or to skip a day, 2 days, 3 days, when we're having an off day, we're having an off period, where things are rough, where we're stressed. Those are actually the things that are going to set us back the absolute most, right? When you miss a day or two of ritual, there is no doubt that every day we skip, it makes it harder to get back into the process and get things flowing. It is harder to get things moving again than just to keep them in motion, right? And anyone who is part of our community and taking part in the supporter path working, we talked about Musashi's concept of always do something, the concept of a worst day minimum. And that's kind of one of those things that one does need to consider. Now, there are going to be times, period, in life where we're going to be facing hardships, and it's going to feel freaking overwhelming. It is going to feel like we just can't take another step. We can't deal with another thing. We can't deal with another problem. We can't deal with another phone call. Yet this is, in all honesty, in truth, these are the moments in our lives, in our path, in our practice, when we as mages are being tested to the max on our ability to walk that path, right? This is that ability to stay focused on what matters most, that self-mastery, that self-empowerment. This is the times when you are taking the test, you are taking your exam. Are you actually developing self-mastery and empowerment? Because if you give up, if you sit down and you say, I can't do it, you failed the test. That's kind of how you fail the test. You give up. The test isn't about necessarily fixing the problem. It's about, do you give up? Do you continue? Do you continue to practice? Do you continue to develop? Do you continue to find solutions or options? That is the test. And every time we face this test, we do get a little bit better. We carve off a little bit stronger and a little bit less lazy. We make it through. Now, here's the big kicker, though. During these tests, one reason our endurance and our drive and our discipline to keep going, even though we might feel like crap, we might have the flu, right? I've done rituals in a freaking hospital bed where I was admitted on emergency and I was held for like a freaking week because they literally had to get me stable enough to do a surgery. And I was still doing rituals from the hospital bed because, well, didn't have anything else to do, but I didn't want to give up that time either. So, you can make it happen. Like, you can find workarounds, you can find ways to do things if you want. But the reason we say that this does take endurance and courage, because you got to have the endurance and the fortitude to push forward, and you got to have the courage to do it. And if we don't develop these things, because I know what people's thinking, why the hell do I need these things to practice magic? I just do it for fun. Fine. If you just do it for fun, you're not doing it for self-mastery and self-empowerment. So you're already missing the boat of this topic. But that, no judgment, that's you, right? We're here on the concept of the ideals of a mage, that self-mastery, self-empowerment, right? And if we're not developing these, this is what really cripples us, because when we're not embracing endurance and courage and the concepts to carry forward, that's when doubt creeps in, right? That's when doubt creeps in, and that's when a little bit of laziness creeps in, and it becomes easy, and it lets fear creep in, And it makes it really, really, really easy to just say, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. It's not important. It's not this. First off, saying your magic is not important, not a good thing. Remember, we speak things into reality. So if your magic's not important, yeah, that's going to cripple your manifestations already because, yeah, it's not important. Whatever is attacking you is more important and is already stronger. Whether it's just a bad day, whether it's a cold, whether your shoulders sore, whether your muscles are sore from overdoing a workout, or whether it's stress, you're clearly saying that that's stronger than you. And two, the doubt will absolutely undo your magic. Anything you've already got going, already got running strong, if you're telling yourself you're not strong enough, if you're telling yourself your magic doesn't matter, you will literally unravel everything else you've already set up. That is a death blow to a magical practice. You're literally resetting all your workings to zero. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I do like money. I do like my bank account. I do like my investment portfolios. They may not be big, giant millionaire investments, but hey, I like them. And I'd be pretty freaking pissed if I woke up and I don't know, I went crazy and decided to just zero them out because it ain't worth it. It ain't worth the time and effort. But at the same thing, that is how I view my magical workings. My magical workings are an investment just like those. So I do not want to do anything or take any action that's going to zero those out. I don't want to do it. That's craziness. Why would I do that? I plan workings out for an entire year, right? We've talked about this and other things where we talk about planning out our magical planning and stuff. In fact, we at Working Dragon Mystic are actually working on an actual Mage's journal to help you all plan these things out and record them, which will be published and purchasable. So keep your eyes out for that. We'll make an announcement. But I plan out my workings for the year. What are my goals for the year? I will do yearly workings. I will do workings that are supposed to help the whole year, right? Then I will break it down into 6-month workings. I then have workings that I do every 6 months. So essentially those two are set up solstice to solstice is where I like to place them. You could place them anywhere you want. You could do equinox to equinox. I like solstice to solstice. So I'll do my 6-month ones on solstice to solstice. Then I also do quarterly workings, which I do, quarterly blocks. I follow the financial quarter just because it's just one less thing to track. And then I like to do monthly workings. And I will do some things that are weekly. The weekly workings are, in all honesty, the bread and butter things that I do for me that aren't really predictable. They're the workings I keep in place for my general practice, my research, and stuff like that. But I do have a few spots in there that if I have something I'm working on long term or a continual working that I want to repeat, look to our prosperity spell, or long extended prosperity spell with the candle. That is one of the workings that I'd weave in there weekly too. Okay. So I use that flow. Any of that would be undone if I didn't have the endurance to do it. Like if I got lazy or if I got depressed or if I just let life get to me, all that could come unraveled. And if I start doubting my magic and thinking it's not important, it's all going to unravel already. Anything that hasn't already manifested and come to fruition is just going to unravel. And all that work will be lost. Now I can't get it back. You got to start over. And that's a crap situation, in my opinion, because people's like, well, you can always restart it. Can you? One of the things that people fail to realize is your most valuable resource, your most absolute valuable resource as any human being is your time. You don't know how long you're going to be on the planet, and you can never get time back. It is more valuable than any other resource you have. So why would you throw it away so easily? And if you're throwing away workings and rituals and spells that you did so easily, you're throwing away the time you put into them. That is throwing away chunks of your life that you could have honestly used to do. You could have gone out and sold lemonade on the street for a quarter and gotten more out of it because you just decided to toss that time away. Okay. And I know that that's harsh, but it's true. And we may actually talk about time as a resource in another video. That is something I've been asked about by a few people. Um, Now, the thing is here, we must actually train ourselves to endure the hardships, the tough times, and stuff like that, right? Now, you see this a lot in Norse magic and many shamanic practices traditionally. Some of the more modern ones are definitely a little fluffier around the edges, but traditionally, they would do extended exposure sessions. They would do sitting out sessions. They would go without sleep. They would go on food and water. In fact, earlier this week, I actually did a similar meditation where I was actually outside overnight in the rain, cold, and wind. I didn't have a fire. I didn't have shelter. I had the clothes that I took with me, right? That is what I had. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting out there in shorts and a t-shirt. I did have layers on. But when you're out there sitting on the ground, wind blowing, rain coming down, it saps the heat out of you, right? I had to maintain focus during the meditation and the sitting out period because there are definite dangers in a meditation like this. I do not recommend doing these without some safety net of some kind, which I made sure there were safety nets in place. But I spent the whole night from, I want to say it was about 9 p.m. until 7 a.m. out in the cold and rain, meditating. That takes some focus and endurance. That's not an easy thing to do. And in fact, working on this topic is one of the things that inspired me to step out and do an Udisattva. For it's been a while since I've done one like that. And I wanted to get back to it. Honestly, it's one of the meditation and trance from a shamanic perspective is one of the things I truly value in my personal practice. So, yeah, I wanted to get out there and do that. But it's not something you can just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to go do that. There's things you have to train. Like, first off, the ability to just sit comfortably and meditate for an extended sitting out period. Well, you're going to have to develop that. The understanding of the weather, the climate, how to manage body heat, those kinds of things. You need to understand that. You can't just go out and I'll be honest, most modern insulated clothing, once they're wet, that's it. You're freezing to death. Hypothermia is setting in. Right? There's knowledge and wisdom that comes into that. And even if you can control your core body temperature, there's a difference in controlling core body temperature to the point where you can survive safely and being comfortable. And most people don't know the difference. If they're not comfortable, they automatically assume something's wrong. And you have to be able to endure discomfort within a safe zone without going into the danger zone, right? If you're going to do those things. I'm not recommending people do those things. I'm just using these as an example, okay? Don't go sit out in the freaking cold and freezing weather and say, Drake told me to do it. It's a good idea. I did not say that, right? I'm saying that right here, YouTube. I didn't say that. I'm using an example. I didn't say that. But you have to develop those skills. You have to develop that endurance, right? If we think about it from the concept of a plank, right? Holding meditation focus could actually be easily related to a plank. Because if you're doing a plank, you're not moving. You're locking your muscles in. You're assuming one position. You're holding your focus to hold yourself in that position. Now, getting that position, that's not the hard part. That's not the hard part. It's staying there. You have to train your muscle endurance and strength to hold it, right? Anything in magic is going to fall into that same place. How long can you meditate? How long can you hold your focus? And for those who've done Dragon Magic 101 or 102 and have dealt with large concentrations of ether that you might be directing in ritual, you know that can take it out of you physically. It can exhaust you physically, which means you have to train your body to handle more and more quantities of ether if you want to continue to progress and grow as a magician. Because as hard as some people have found Dragon Magic 101 as an example, how taxing the rituals in that can be, or in 102, 103 and 104 are leaps and bounds and miles ahead of both of those. There is a definite development level between all those. And that development is your endurance to handle those etherical energy patterns. And it takes discipline. And you can't just like stop doing it. Like, let's be honest, if I stop doing my dragon magic practice that I do daily, okay, let's just say I stop doing it for a month, just 1 month, because I'm focusing on something else or whatever. When I come back to it, if I jump straight back into the top rituals that I do, it'd probably drop me on the floor, probably run a risk of knocking me unconscious. It has done it in the past. It has knocked me unconscious for 3 days. Because I'm no longer, I haven't maintained that training. I haven't maintained that ability. Just like anything, you have to train it, you have to maintain it, right? And if you don't maintain it, you're going to lose it. So I would have to work my way back up slowly. Where would I work from? After a month, you get a new ritual in Dragon Magic 103 that's a little considerably stronger than 101's. I might start there. However, if I start there and it's a little much, I'd straight up go back to the standard Dragon's Flame ritual. Straight up, no issues there. But I would not jump into some of the end rituals from 104. That's just stupid. I wouldn't do it. Now, let's say I did in the past, like I did do a path working and stuff where I had to put Dragon Magic on the shelf for a year, right? I'm not starting at 103. I'm going straight back to 101, and I am taking my baby steps to get back into the groove, right? Just like if you're a marathon runner, right? I don't care, 50K marathon. If you don't run, if you don't do any cardio for a freaking year, you're not just going to walk over, sign up for the marathon and go boogity boogity. You're not going to do it. You're going to train, and you're going to have to redevelop that endurance. This is part of it. And another part of endurance is having the endurance to continue your training, to continue your development, to continue practicing those skills. All those things interweave within that endurance. And yes, it does come into, like I said, can you stay focused on your development and your self-mastery and your self-empowerment when life isn't easy? Right? Can you do it when life isn't easy? That's the real test for any of us. Right. And having the endurance and being persistent does not just, it's not about just keep doing the same thing, right? Because there's some people, they will develop a meditation practice. They will develop a ritual practice where every day or every morning they get up, they do the same meditation, the same prayer. There's no thought, there's no focus, there's no nothing. They're just going through the motions, but they're doing it every freaking day. And nothing's necessarily changing, or something in life throws a curveball at them and they can't do it no more. Maybe their work schedule changes or something like that. Part of endurance is also about being able to continue your path while adapting to day-to-day life and the changes and the unexpected and the unforeseen in that day-to-day life, right? You have to learn to adapt to the situation. Now, as we adapt, as we get hit with these things, does that mean a mage is required to come through these things unscathed, flawlessly? We have victory every time? Of course not. Don't be crazy. Don't be stupid. Endurance isn't about consistent victory. In fact, if someone's consistently winning everything they're doing, let's be honest, they're not challenging themselves. They're not pushing themselves. They're not going to be progressing, right? It's just like if you put God mode onto a video game, you're not going to learn the video game. You might see the story, but let's be honest, when you put against a skilled player, you're going to lose every time. Same concept here. Now, but that being said, yes, as we adapt, as we face these things, as we continue to march forward, as we try to find workarounds, we will fail, period. We will fall short. All right? But as we fail, as we fall short, when things don't work out as we want, part of our endurance is that we don't give up. We don't quit. We continue to adapt. When plan A didn't work, we move to plan B. When plan B works, great. Next time, go to plan B first. Plan B don't work, move to plan C. You know what I'm saying? There's that old military adage, you got the plan, understand the plan, know the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, and adapt, right? And really that apply. I use that concept in life because nothing I have ever seen ever goes exactly as planned. And if anything, even in my mundane life, it doesn't. And that's one of the reasons I love being a mage, is because when my mundane life starts going off the rails, I can use magic to steady it as best as possible, right? Um, so yeah, we need to not only have that endurance within our practice, within our skill development, but in our path when life is getting rough, right? Now, does that mean you can't take a day off? No, that does not mean you can't take a day off. But when we take a day off, when we choose something like that, we need to choose it for strategical reasons. Does this day serve our overarching goal and destination for our life? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, I don't see an issue with it. Just don't fall into the trap of taking days off and taking time away from your progress, right? Because if you look at Magic kind of like the gym, can you take a day off the gym? Yes. But if you constantly miss gym days, you lose gains, right? You don't even maintain, you start losing gains. It's kind of the same thing here. But if the day off actually serves your goal, like let's say you really go, you're working with a trainer or something and you are sore, you can't freaking move, and the trainer tells you to take a recovery day. You're taking a day off from the gym, but that day is a recovery day. Now, let's be honest. Anyone who's gone to the gym, anybody who has been literally physically required to take a recovery day, we know the next day after the recovery day, you're not feeling like sunshine. You're still sore. Well, there is a point where you still have to get back in the gym sore. You can't wait until you're just feeling right as rain, because then you'll end up losing gains. And that kind of holds up in all aspects of life, including magic. And if you are pursuing self-mastery and self-empowerment, self-mastery is about knowing your limits, being able to push your limits, being able to train yourself to new limits, and being able to continue that path in life so that you can continue to grow, right? And you understand yourself, you understand those limits so that you don't push so far past them that you fall back down the hill, right? And it is through that mastery and that endurance of the self that we further increase our power. And that it helps us to gain self-empowerment and the ability to rely on ourselves, our power, our manifestations, puts our life, our fate, our destiny in our control. See how these things are interweaving. And if you go back and watch some of the previous Mage Minded series to refresh on them, or if you've never seen them, if you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, you can check those out and you will see, because we talk about courage here. We've already done a Mage Minded on courage, if I remember right. I'm pretty sure we did. Those lessons interweave in here perfectly. Okay. All right. I hope this makes some sense. If you have any questions, do ask them below. If you're watching on YouTube and Rumble, again, consider joining our online community. It's absolutely free to just become a member of the online community. If you wish to support the work we do, there is a supporter only section in the online community where you get lots of lovely perks: monthly spell working, custom spell working. We have supporter only live chats, so it really reduces the number of people there, allows people to ask more direct questions. We can get into topics we can't get into anywhere else. Free access to workshops, access to the entire library of online classes that I have, all kinds of things and more. They also get early access to projects we're working on. They get, like when I do have one-on-one classes that open up, my supporters are the first people to know about them, usually a couple weeks to a month in advance before anyone else. So if there's a spot open, they'll be the first ones to have access to those. All right. Until next time, everybody, I am Drake. This has been Working Dragon Mystic. I hope you've enjoyed this. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.